Previously on the Devilman Retrospective series. Red Ranger here is having a difficult timing to get a little sleep after most of the work he's been doing.
This is so bad. They won't leave me alone. I will never bother you guys ever again. The world's gonna end. Oh, Jesus, God, help me, Jesus.
Fortunately, or in this case, unfortunately, he received a call from his friend telling him that it's that time to review that movie since G-Fest is coming near. What secrets may lie in store on this edition of Devilman Retrospective series?
I've had better days.
I just want to point this out by saying this movie kicked ass. Honestly, this is by far one of the best Godzilla movies came out this generation. No, it's the best Godzilla movie out of the Heisei series. Because honestly, this movie is just so goddamn amazing. And it's just, I don't even know what to say. I mean, this is me not scripted. Yeah, I don't have a script with it. This is just me saying this movie is awesome. You guys should check it out. To those hardcore Godzilla fans, this is the most interesting and the most famous one, you could say, because this is the first time since the 1954 incident that Godzilla dies. Yeah, they killed off Godzilla once again, and this time they went in with a bang. So, yeah, the plot is basically Godzilla's a literal nuke, and he's going to explode and basically melt the entire planet to the core, where it basically will explode and basically destroy the universe. No joke, that's what the plot is. Not only that, but the Action Destroyer is also back, and it's, well, basically form a devil kaiju, which, shit you not, it's actually inspired by Devilman. Yeah, a kaiju known as Destroyah was inspired by Devilman. So, since this movie came out during the 40th anniversary of Godzilla, they really want to go out with a bang. And honestly, before Godzilla vs. Destroyer became a thing, this movie had a lot of different plans it was going to be. Like, there was one plan where Godzilla was literally going to fight a ghost of the original Godzilla. Yeah. And also, it was also going to fight freaking Baron. Let's see, a giant Frankenstein monster, and basically the original design, Barabora, or whatever it was called. And hell, even Bagan was even going to be planned to be the one to fight Godzilla. Which, yeah, this movie had a lot of plans to have. As I stated before, Godzilla does die, and when that news hit, it went straight up crazy throughout the world. I mean, freaking CNN literally did a news report on this, and I'm gonna play it. And please don't copyright me on this. I just want to share you all of this. This is basically what happened during that time.
Godzilla's final fight will be a memorable one. Mei Lee reports.
He needs no introduction. His glaring eyes and gnashing teeth, not to mention his habit of destroying everything in sight, has made this overgrown lizard a superstar. But in his 22nd film, Godzilla vs. the Destroyer, to be released December 9th in Japan, the 42-year-old monster will finally meet his end. Godzilla will die. The film's directors promise the final scene will be unforgettable.
Godzilla died once before in the first movie in 1954, so this last film incorporates the image of his first death.
This was the cause of Godzilla's first demise 4 decades ago, the Destroyer, a weapon that zaps oxygen. Remember, Godzilla is a nuclear monster. Now, in this final installment, the Destroyer will be to blame again. But this time, it will come to life in the form of an indestructible monster.
Destroyer appears only in the first and last Godzilla movies, so in a way, the last film is the continuation of the first.
Special effects director Koichi Kawakita painstakingly guided his team of designers and technicians to create the sci-fi world of Godzilla one last time. Although technological advances such as computers and robots have given the films more realism over the years, the simple monster suit hasn't been outgrown. All it takes are the right moves and a few visual and audio enhancements, and presto, Godzilla is out flattening entire cities once again. And this time, Hong Kong, along with Tokyo, falls victim to his violent temper. Bringing the Godzilla series full circle involved using the same human characters as well as the famous creatures. Momoko Kochi starred in the first film and plays the same character in the last one.
After the first Godzilla movie, people pointed at me, saying, "Godzilla, Godzilla." As a young woman, I hated being called Godzilla. So I thought, no more Godzilla for me. But 41 years later, I watched the film again and realized how great it was for its anti-nuclear theme.
And that's a theme found in this final chapter of the Godzilla series.
In this last movie, I want people to look at the death of Godzilla, knowing that he was created by nuclear power in the most selfish existence in the world, mankind.
With that strong anti-nuclear message, Godzilla will bid farewell to the silver screen here in Japan. But don't be surprised if he shows up in the Western world sometime soon. In fact, TriStar, the U.S. film company, has bought the rights to make one Godzilla movie, which is expected to come out sometime in 1997. Japanese creators have no qualms about the deal.
Personally, I'm looking forward to seeing Godzilla in the U.S.
I'm a Godzilla fan, so I want to see the American Godzilla movie.
And why not? It's about high time that the ferocious, fire-breathing beast picks on someone else for a while. Haley, CNN, Tokyo.
Holy shit, that was by far one of the best things I see back in that generation. And yeah, originally that was supposed to be the last Godzilla movie by Toho. And unfortunately for those people who wanted to see the new 1997, which will be later the 1998 Godzilla, we instead got this. Are you shitting me, TriStar? Really? This is the best thing you got to reboot Godzilla in the American? Are you shitting me? Man, it's a good thing Legendary would later make their mistakes better unlike this shithole. Then again, if it weren't for this movie, we wouldn't have this. Man, I love that scene so much. Yeah, don't get me wrong, I do like the Zilla character, but that is not what Godzilla is. Alright guys, enough about that history. We'll talk about that another day. But let's dive into Godzilla vs. Destroyah.
Destroyah!
After the release of Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, it was decided that Toho's plan for the next film would actually be the last of the series. Given the fact that this Heisei series has been around since '84, it'd be best that they need to end it off with a big bang. A teaser was shown later that it would be announced that the title wasn't even official, so they give the title as Godzilla 7. Alright, you know the interesting thing is, there was a lot of cut scrap projects for this film. There was not once, not two cut projects, or drafts, whatever you call it, but 50 f***ing drafts. I'm not joking, I'm serious. 15 drafts were put in this project. And most of them were Godzilla vs. Ghost Godzilla. Not just any Ghost Godzilla, the original Godzilla from 1954. And the most interesting thing is originally that was supposed to be the final film, and that was actually greenlit. But due to the fact Toho decided to cut that because they didn't want another Godzilla opponent. Yeah, that's the reason why they cut that out, because it was getting boring, because not only they fought Mechagodzilla, they had a Space Godzilla, but now they just said, yeah, we can't do this. This is getting redundant. However, this idea would later be added in for the Millennium series of Godzilla against Mechagodzilla through all the way to Godzilla Tokyo SRS. And also GMK. You know, the funny thing is, not only Godzilla's a spear in that one, but I'll let this clip explain it to you more.
It starts with the Japanese people, particularly the troubled youth. They vandalize monuments, rob convenience stores, sell out their homeland, and stuff a cute puppy in a box to drown him. Oh my god, that is horrible! Kill him, Godzilla! Burn their faces off! Ahem, turns out that's exactly what Godzilla's here to do. Or more specifically, the souls of those victimized by the Japanese Imperial Army in World War II. But old man Hobo, why Soul Godzilla gotta be so grumpy?
Because the Japanese people want to forget what happened. They deemed it preferable to forget the pain and the agony they inflicted on all those people.
So, Godzilla is not just a byproduct of nuclear war. He's Pearl Harbor reincarnate as a giant laser-shooting dinosaur out for revenge. I guess that's one way to remind everyone of the tragedies of war.
And, this is actually quite interesting. Godzilla versus Godzilla Jr. Godzilla versus his own son. I mean, bear that in mind. Can you imagine, like, in the actual Godzilla vs. Destroyah, he actually attacked his own son? Yeah, he still cares for his son, but, like, given the amount of radiation and power he has, I wouldn't be surprised he actually just goes and attacks him. It's like the equivalent of rabies plus steroids, and this is what you get. Godzilla vs. the Deep Sea Life? I am not even joking. That's literally what this scrap project was called. And this is probably the most interesting one, because this one revolves with the Oxygen Destroyer, which is something that will later be used in Godzilla vs. Destroyah. Or, before Godzilla vs. Destroyah was even a greenlit, there was also a few more. The Bio Monster, which is basically a giant Frankenstein monster, which we haven't seen that since the Showa series. Godzilla vs. Super Nuke Godzilla. I'm not joking. The title literally says Godzilla vs. Super Nuke Godzilla. You could just call it, I don't know, maybe something different. Now, this is somewhat interesting, to say the least, because the description of this Godzilla kind of reminds me a lot of Godzilla seen in the anime. I mean, heck, it even has similar designs, so I gotta at least get props for the new direction they wanted to go through. But sadly, just like with Godzilla vs. Ghost Godzilla, this was also pushed back. And then there's... I don't even know what that word even is. I can't even pronounce it, so yeah. Not only that, but another plan was decided to have Baraguras, which is basically a hybrid of Angiers and Baragon. Some other interesting names are that of Godzilla vs. Chaos. Yes, Chaos. Not to be confused with Chaos from the Sonic series, but that would be pretty interesting. The Divine Beast. And most infamous of all, Godzilla vs. Bagan, which, interestingly, this was actually an original idea for the first rebirth of Godzilla.
The first proposed appearance of Bagan, or maybe actually Bakken, we'll get into the name confusion in the trivia section, but for now let's just refer to this incarnation as Bakken, was in Resurrection of Godzilla, a project which existed as a 47-page proposal by Tomoyuki Tanaka in 1980 as a revival of the Godzilla franchise. No concept art exists for Bakken, and this artwork is an artist's interpretation of the monster. The 1980 Bakken was an ancient shape-shifting god monster that took 3 different forms. It started out in its monkey beast form, but after being wounded it morphed into the dragon beast form, and later dove into the water and turned into its water beast form. After Godzilla was awakened by nuclear dumping in the Pacific and drawn to Japan in search of more nuclear fuel, he fought and defeated Bakken. Sadly, this project was dropped by Toho because of concerns that it would be too risky to produce such a big-budget film, even with Godzilla's name attached, Bakken's transformations being the source of the concerns. Bagan was potentially considered for another film, also titled Godzilla vs. Bagan, which according to Takao Okawara was an early version of Godzilla vs. Destroyah. I heard about Godzilla vs. Bagan while Godzilla vs. Destroyah was being planned, but I didn't hear anything about its plot. Rumors at the time suggested that the story would be very much like Godzilla vs. Giant Monster Varan, in which Varan is described as being a harbinger for the end of the world, awakening in 1999 and dead set on ending all life, but ends up being defeated by Godzilla and Little Godzilla, though not set in the future. Bagan took the place of Varan, with Mothra and the Gotengo from Atragon set to appear as well. Ultimately, the shape-shifting monster Barabori would be favored, and that concept would eventually transform into Godzilla vs. Destroyah.
There was an early draft of this, but unfortunately, every time when I go on TohoZilla or any other site, it doesn't show, of this draft. And there might be a good reason, because the original ending is actually quite depressing. You thought the original plan for Godzilla vs. Destroyah was depressing, but no. Compared to that, that's like child's play in comparison of this. Supposedly, in the original ending of Godzilla vs. Destroyah, after Godzilla dies and supposedly Junior dies, this also made me got a little bit of tears. Miki Sugusuka commits suicide after the death of both Godzilla and Junior. That is not a joke. If you could read it right here in this image that I got, you can clearly see in this part here, Miki Sugusuka commits suicide out of grief. Well, no wonder they didn't want to show the early script to anyone in the public. It's more fucking depressing than, let's say, the ending of Devilman Crybaby. We'll get to that later. Today's video is brought to you by Adblock. Am I sponsoring this? Hell no. This is actually a pretty fun thing for me to use a lot for my free time. And every time when I go on YouTube, I really hate having ads around. And it just doesn't make me feel like classic YouTube. But luckily with Adblock, you just say F you to that and Adblock is your answer. Not just on YouTube, but any other site. Including DeviantArt, Facebook, all that stuff. And I just really don't like ads on my favorite social medias that I like to use. So if you want to get ad blocked, then you should go ahead and go on Google App and look for it yourself, because it's actually pretty good for me. Now that out of the way, let's continue on the video now, shall we? So, story. Alright, let's just get this over with, because I have another project I gotta work on. Interesting, this film starts up like with the first one, with the footsteps of Godzilla, feeling that nostalgic feeling from the first movie. We cut to a scene with Miki Sugusuka, played by the amazing Megumi Ogata, where she's going back to Birth Island to check on Godzilla and Junior at this point, but something's wrong as the island has been sunk down like the city of Atlantis. Next scene we cut to Hong Kong, which is something the first we haven't seen in a Godzilla film, which I'm actually quite alright with that change of pace. However, we do get the scene where Godzilla's at, and we actually know what really happened during the volcano on the island, where he's literally glowing red, even spewing red magma on his chest. Okay, before we continue on this, I just want to give you the idea of where this concept of Godzilla glowing red in the first place. Originally, they wanted to have a movie where you want to fight King Kong, but that was cut because they couldn't have the copyright for that. So instead, they wanted to have him fight a giant mechanical Kong, where some terrorist organization literally infect Godzilla in some kind of like bacteria, making his chest literally burst out red. So that's where the idea of burning Godzilla came in. And you're probably wondering, what's going on in Godzilla in this movie? Why is he spewing red? Could it be the effects of the volcano? Well, it's two, actually, because it's a double-edged sword. So I'm going to explain that a bit. So this all started back in the first Heisei film in Godzilla, or Return of Godzilla, or 85, or whatever, where he starts literally feeding on nuclear radiation from a nuclear sub to some nuclear plants in somewhere on the island. Second time Godzilla feeds on radiation is after he was kind of been killed. I mean, it's never been said he actually was killed, he was just put down. Godzilla would later get revived by... this is actually funny. So, when Godzilla was arriving to Tokyo, there was a boat that had a nuclear launch code, which does launch, and another nuke had to be sent to take out that nuke, and it caused a geostorm, which revived Godzilla since he feeds on radiation. And then Godzilla would later get trapped in the volcano, where it's actually kind of a stupid mistake on the military account because Godzilla was literally feeding on the magma. Literally feeding on energy from a volcano, which basically, for over 5 years, basically gave Godzilla enough strength to literally be stronger than the last time he was first seen. However, Godzilla does later on get affected by the military's plan to infect Godzilla with the anti-nuclear energy bacteria, where it literally put Godzilla in a illness which almost killed him. Luckily, he was able to go back in the ocean to recover, and later on, when he meets up with a nuclear submarine sent by the military because they thought that they were going to create another Godzilla. Which, reality, that's another story for another day. Once the nuclear submarine was sent to Godzilla, Godzilla not only destroyed the submarine, it literally fed on nuclear energy. Not only he was more stronger, he was even more bigger, ranging Godzilla's height as 100 meters, making him the tallest Godzilla to this date. Until the later series comes in. Later on, after the battle with Mecha King Ghidorah, like I said, we'll get to that later, Godzilla will reappear again to actually attack Mothra out of nowhere. I mean, this was accidental, and he will later get confronted by Batra, where, for some odd reason, a underground volcano dragged both of the monsters down under to the magma, which caused Godzilla to absorb more radiation than before from the magma. Jesus Christ.
How long is this gonna go on?
Okay, enough joke aside, back what I was saying. Finally, I can finally talk about this. So, the last time we get Godzilla getting a more radioactive energy boost was when he was literally killed. Actually, he wasn't actually killed. They basically shocked his brain enough where to put him in a coma. Not killed, he was in a coma.
I was never dead. I was in a coma. Thanks for burying me alive, by the way.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. I guess at some point somebody probably should have taken your pulse or something.
Yeah, basically that would have really happened. So, after Rodan actually sacrificed himself to give Godzilla his soul, or actually Godzilla took his soul, you basically get the picture. It basically caused Godzilla to get a new ability where it literally causes his atomic breath to be more powerful than before, dubbing it the name the Red Spiral Ray, which was so powerful it didn't just destroy Mechagodzilla, it basically vaporized him from the ground. However, this also gave us a little bit of a side effect, as Godzilla not only was more powerful than before, but for some reason his roar has even got a little deeper, hinting something to come in a few years later. Alright, finally, I can finally end this now. So after Godzilla defeated Space Godzilla, he headed back to Birth Island. And he was also feeding on nuclear energy at the volcano again. However, with the new energy he was given by Rodan, it literally caused him more power to burst out even more, which not only destroyed half of the area, it also destroyed the island. Luckily, nobody noticed it, but the little one managed to survive, so that's a good thing. And that's how Bernie Godzilla was born. Holy shit, that took forever to do. This is what we learned about Godzilla now. With all the radiation he was absorbing throughout the years, it's causing him so much power that it's really causing him a heart attack. Or instead of a heart attack, he's literally going to destroy the Earth by explosion. Or in this case, a nuclear meltdown. So that is the plot. So they have to find a way to prevent Godzilla from destroying all life on the planet, basically.
Well, we're fucked.
So yeah, basically the world is basically what Spike just said. And honestly, I would not want to be in that situation. I would just like shit my pants, piss my pants, find a rocket, and get the hell out of this planet before it does happen. Luckily, we do got some info what's going on with Godzilla's whereabouts okay, this is actually quite funny and quite stupid for both parties, so bear with me, guys.
Apparently, something is happening there, in the reactor, in Godzilla's heart. Look at this. I have here a thesis which accurately analyzes it from every point of view. It came through the internet from a Japanese college boy. It's an interesting and certainly unusual opinion about Godzilla.
What the fuck?
Okay, seriously, what the hell? Okay, I should not be complaining because that is a good information, but there's just one simple tiny problem with that. How the hell did this person even got this information? So what do you do, like, hack for the freaking information on the website by the government? Because we all know what happened the last time when someone tried to do something like that. Yeah. Surprise, this person hasn't get even arrested. I mean, who the hell even is this college? Son of a bitch. That's right, folks. This college kid is in fact a member of the Yamane family. If you don't know who the Yamane family was, let's go back into 1954 now, shall we? The character of Dr. Yamane was an important character as he was the one that actually gave us the name and the whereabouts of Godzilla as he first went to the island himself. So during the events when he first went to the island himself, a storm happened where Godzilla attacked the village and also killing one of the villagers' parents, which that person would actually be adopted by Dr. Yamane. Later, after that event, they would later go back to the island along with Emiko Yamane, who's actually Dr. Yamane's first child, and later on the stepsister of the adopted kid of Odo Island. The person that they would adopt is named Shinchi. Okay, I can't even pronounce the name, but it's right there in the title. So yeah, that's his name. He would play a very important role because later on he would have kids, which they are named Yukari Yamane, a reporter, and a college boy himself.
Figures. This
is Kenji Yamane, the son of the survivor member of the incident of Odo Island. Well, we don't get much in the whereabouts of his dad, but it is mentioned that he was around, but is no longer around anymore. Maybe he passed away or something. Which is kind of weird since the actor who played that character is actually alive and well. Kind of weird, I know. Surprised they didn't add him. G-Force wants to hire him to investigate this Godzilla incident after the information he's gathered, which I'm surprised nobody has arrested him yet. I mean, heck, he even declined that, which would be a red flag if you're part of the government. But his interest does peak when Miki Tsugusuka is mentioned.
She's heading the team looking for the little one. Then I'll do it.
Easy, Dicker Shadow. She's already been claimed. Meanwhile, we get a scene where Emiko Yamane is watching her granddaughter, or is it grandniece? I don't know how family heritage works, but is watching her on the news about micro-oxygen. I'm actually quite surprised they got the original actress who played her in the first movie. That's actually a pretty good reference. However, there is one red flag to this, which I'm actually quite surprised nobody notices when they first seen this movie. What do I mean by that is that not only she's in the movie, but where's her boyfriend? Or in this case, they would have been married or something like that. I mean, yeah, she was married to Dr. Serizawa, but she doesn't love him like a lover, but more like a brother relationship. Which is why she was in love with Ogata, played by Akira Takarada. Yeah, they got this person back in the first movie, but I'm surprised they didn't get Akira Takarada. And why that? Oh, right. Emiko asks Yukari to go back to this doctor who's working on this micro-oxygen, as she's worried that this could be another oxygen destroyer, which, stated by Dr. Serizawa in the first movie, could be used as a weapon to literally destroy the world, which he feared that it could be the case. Which he asked him to go talk to him, saying that this should not even be a weapon. And I also want to bring the elephant in the room, because where the hell in God's green earth was he able to retain these micro-oxygen in the first place? Dr. Serizawa said and stated that he would only use it on Godzilla and everything else would have to be destroyed. So, one, how could they even have an oxygen destroyer if they don't have the blueprints? Unless there was a scientist that he knew, like any of the workers or the Yamanes or even the Shit! I fucking knew it. I knew this was going to be the case. I knew that he would have help from the Nazis, or in this case they're saying that it was a German from Switzerland, but I mean hell, it's even stated in the movie he was a World War II veteran, so he probably would be working with the goddamn Nazis. I mean heck, they even stated something like this in the film itself. Here, take a listen.
いや、実はです。スイスにいる特派員が直接そのドイツ人に会って聞いたって言うんですよ。芹沢博士が当時考えていたプランを完成していたら、日本のゴジラ対策も何らかの打開策が発見されるんじゃないか。
私にはドイツ人の友人は一人もおりません。
Now, the way he described that was saying that he never met the guy, But you gotta remember, I think the reason why he just said that right there was because he was covering his fucking ass. I mean, hell, you gotta remember, during the Second World War, and even before that, the Japanese were actually allies with the Nazi Party. And not only that, they were also giving the Japanese some of their weaponries, like some jet fighters, like the Me-262, and another was known as the Oka, which was a literal kamikaze B-1. And that's nothing! They literally also gave them nuclear energy, aka radioactive material, for them to make a fucking atomic bomb. Luckily for the Americans, they were able to bomb that facility before they were able to make the weapon. However, as I was doing research for this review, I discovered another documentary which showed the Japanese actually test their own atomic bomb less than a couple of days after they were nuked by the Americans.
19, Not one, but two teams of Japan's top scientists were engaged in a desperate bid to develop the bomb. They had completed the first crucial steps, and may even have detonated a nuclear explosion. The Western Allies had no inkling that the Japanese program was so advanced. They did not know that with just a little more time, the course of World War II might have taken a very different turn.
And so the only way the Germans and the Japanese could communicate in a physical way was by submarines that weren't designed as cargo carriers. And yet, that's the only conduit they had open.
In March 1945, a German U-boat set out from the port of Kiel. Its manifest showed that it was carrying 1,000 pounds of uranium oxide, enough, after processing, for probably 2 atomic bombs. While America knew that Germany had a nuclear program, they had dismissed the idea that Japanese scientists could be doing anything significant. The Americans, who had long since cracked Japan's naval ciphers, were in for a shock. In March and April 1945, the U.S. launched a series of devastating firebomb attacks on the Japanese mainland. The bombs, dropped from hundreds of B-29 bombers, created firestorms that swept through Japanese cities with a destructive force exceeding even that of the eventual atom bombs.
This is the place exactly where the thermal diffusion cylinder was. Yes, April 14th in the morning. This is the exact site.
14日の朝にやりました。ここです。
The crucial component in uranium processing was gone. Meanwhile, the uranium-carrying U-boat was still on its way to Japan. But historic events again intervened. During the submarine's long voyage, Germany was finally defeated. Adolf Hitler committed suicide, and his successor, Admiral Dönitz, ordered all naval vessels to surrender to the nearest Allied power. Japan's nuclear project in Tokyo was in ruins, but Japan had an even more closely guarded nuclear secret. A second, quite separate bomb project started by the Navy some months after the Army's program, but not in Japan. The two sectors of the armed forces were bitter rivals. The Navy scientists were every bit a match for Nishina. They included a future Nobel Prize winner, Hideki Yukawa. But the task for the Japanese to perfect their atomic bomb was immense, and time was not on their side. 2 major cities had been annihilated by America's atomic bombs. But even now, the Japanese Empire resisted defeat, searching for any way to stave off the inevitable. According to one report, they made one last-ditch effort. They conducted a nuclear test. Immediately after the war, David Snell, an American journalist at that time in the U.S. Army, had an extraordinary encounter in Korea with a Japanese intelligence officer who stated he was attached to Japan's atomic bomb program. He claimed to have been an eyewitness at the detonation of Japan's first atomic bomb.
Shortly after midnight of that day, a
convoy of Japanese trucks moved from the mouth of the cave, past watchful sentries. The trucks wound through valleys, past sleeping farm villages. It was August, and frogs in the mud of terraced rice paddies sang in a still night. In the cool pre-dawn, Japanese scientists and engineers loaded Genzai Bakudan, the bomb, aboard a ship in Conan. Off the coast near an islet in the Sea of Japan, more frantic preparations were underway. All that day and night, ancient ships, junks, and fishing vessels moved into the anchorage. On August the 12th, a robot launch chugged through the ships at anchor and beached itself on the inlet. Its passenger was Genzai Bakudan. A clock ticked. The observers were 20 miles away. This waiting was difficult and strange to men who had worked relentlessly so long and who knew their job had been completed too late. The light in the east where Japan lay grew brighter. The moment the sun peeped over the sea, there was a burst of light at the anchorage, blinding the observers who wore welder's glasses. The ball of fire was estimated to be 1,000 yards in diameter. A multicolored cloud of vapors boiled towards the heavens, then mushroomed in the stratosphere.
Snell's story was published in 1946. It was reproduced around the world, but was soon lost in the fast-moving developments of the post-war years.
As I stated before, that clip you just seen right there, I know it was pretty long, but yeah, this is me not scripted right now, but let me just tell you, that was new information I did not even know, so I gotta give thumbs up for that. But back to the subject with the Oxygen Destroyer. Now, this is just my opinion, and this is also part of my headcanon, but I think the Oxygen Destroyer could also be referenced to another device by the Axis power. A Death Ray. Not a lot known information is known about the Death Ray, but it said that it was once tested, but everyone else who worked on it were basically vanished, or they probably got killed by the SS. Since they didn't want this information out of the public, or they didn't want anyone else with this kind of power, especially the Soviet Union.
A quarry in the middle of the forest in the Harz Mountains. Documents don't reveal the secret of what it looks like, only that its cannon-like front end shoots out an invisible ray. Colonel Schroeder Stranz has invented an X-ray beam. Using the technical knowledge available at the time, it might have looked like this. Despite shortages caused by the war, Nazi scientists still have access to valuable metals and measuring instruments, which were by now extremely rare. A trial run claims that the weapon shoots out a bolt of radiation that can be detected up to 25 miles away. The SS and Colonel Stranz are successful. But then, mysteriously, the file is closed. The special unit is disbanded in October 1944 with no explanation to be found to this day.